Hi to Kalyan. Huh?
Hi, and welcome to Foodocracy for Her. We've got Anahita Dondi, and who's there with you?
And you've also got Yuzu. He's a Japanese lemon.
Japanese lemon yuzu, and well, there's little Nimki. Little Nimki is my kitten, who's a Bengali sort of namak para. He's out
Oh,
there, and Baby Loaf is sleeping, and so great to have Yuzu also joining in,
I
and
know.
maybe. Yeah, I think it's time I start a foodocracy for cats and foodocracy for dogs, or at least foodocracy for pets. Anita, yesterday, there's this little cat down the road called whom we've named Small, and I go and meet him and I go for my
I know. I've
walk.
seen it on your stories. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to him yesterday and wearing the mask, and I just talked to him. And then I was hoping that all these people passing by, I hope they realize that I was talking to a kitten and not to myself. I don't know if that makes it any better, but but
Okay. So I'm putting Yuzu down. We'll catch him later, huh? Once he troubles me.
okay, yeah. Yuzu's dates are much tougher than Anaita's dates to get. Well, come on board, Anaita. This is Foodocracy for Her, where I speak to women in the food and beverage industry who have been doing fascinating work, and so have you, and in various different facets. So, in the restaurant which you worked in, and with the UN, now you started your own thing. But before that, I want to tell people a bit about the breakfast which I had, and you can also see if I got the recipe right. So I had papeta per idu. So my wife Kainaz, whom you've met a couple of times, so she made khado papeto last night, which is, as you know, a Parsi dish which goes from house to house. I think it means potatoes cooked in whole spices, kothmeer, coriander, chili, garlic, turmeric, salt. So she made that last night. There was a bit extra. So she said, and Anahita, you're all about sustainable. So she said,
Yeah.
why don't you use? So I said, okay, hashtag love your leftovers. So
I
I
know. So
made,
I've seen your hashtags. I mean, love your
yeah,
leftovers is
we've
such
discussed
an
it.
amazing
Yes.
hashtag. But even I have a hashtag which I use, which is leftovers can be sexy. So which is just to get people to use their leftovers. It's amazing. That world of using leftovers is something that I really enjoy, and I know you love it.
But
So
I must confess that you've been sort of practicing and talking about this even before I did, and in your profession as well. For me, I think it happened a bit during the lockdown because before that we tried to eat fresh and this that. But in the lockdown, when you had to do everything yourself and there was not too much around you, then
absolutely.
like even
And
if you
also,
make
I
say,
think, yeah, limited resources makes you
yeah,
start
yeah,
thinking creatively, that's very,
yeah,
very important.
yeah. So I'll tell you what I did. I don't know if this is the right recipe or not, but we have this small little pan, like cake pan sort of thing. So I took a little bit of ghee in that, put in the potato just to sort of refresh it. Then broke an egg on it, and then added a bit of sea salt. Then covered it, and just to make it, leftovers can be sexy. So to act the sex quotient, I put in a bit of chopped chilies. I was tempted to put a bit of potato and go the Kejriwal way, but in the I didn't.
I
Uh,
know.
but a,
I
but a
mean, there are
problem
so
with
many ways. I mean, that's why Parsis, if you ask them, one ingredient in their kitchen will always be eggs. So,
Ida,
and even,
Idu.
I know. So, even at Soda, we used to say that when in doubt, break an Edu on it. So, whenever you are confused what to do, just like how we have curry do, just break an egg on it.
Though I must say that the reason why my hashtag is love your leftovers and yours is leftovers can be sexy is that there's so much hotness which I can handle. So when I had the first chili, I kept hiccuping, and Kenaz was on her work call and eating, and she looked at me and said, "What happened?" So, but guys, it was a good way of getting into mood for this interview because Anaita is a Parsi, and she's a bit of a peculiar Parsi, and I'll tell you why. Because she's from Delhi, and I'll tell you why this makes her peculiar. Because to most of us, the association with Parsis is Mumbai, and also the Irani cafes and things like that. Well, first of all, Mumbai is not the only place with Irani cafes. I mean, Hyderabad has its own culture of Muslim Irani cafes in a sense. And
Absolutely.
Pune has its Parsi population. Kolkata has one building where there Parsi families who live. Jamshedpur, which I went to a couple of years back, just logically is a very Parsi city, but you don't get Parsi food anywhere in most of these places. But
Yeah.
Anaita, tell me a bit about the Parsi community and culture in Delhi. I'm sure my family here would love to know. So tell me a bit about how it was growing up as
Yeah.
a Parsi in
So,
Delhi.
I mean, your question is absolutely valid, Kalyan. When I was in college, I had every person who came up to me and said that, you're Parsi, you're from Bombay, or you're Parsi, where are you from? Which part of Bombay are you from? And it's just a very natural thing to associate Parsis from Bombay because of the number of people that, Bombay has in terms of the Parsi community. So the largest number of Parsis are in Bombay. And every time I tell them that, what, my parents were in Allahabad and there was a community of Parsis in Allahabad, and you'll find some Parsi families all over the country and all over the world. But Allahabad had a good number of Parsis. Now there are sadly only 3-4 families which are left in Allahabad. And both my parents, they were in Allahabad and they came to Delhi and they moved to Delhi. And I was born in Delhi. And honestly, for them also to kind of settle down and get in touch with the community here, it's very small. It's just 300 people. So the people that we've grown up with kind of are our friends. Like, our friend circle is very small, but we all know them from, like, how we were very young. So we all your Anjuman meetings, all your Farowar classes, all these things that happen. And when you say peculiar, it's, honestly, it's very difficult to make people understand that I'm a Parsi from Delhi. They don't get it. Sometimes they don't get it. And if they do get it, they have lots of questions like you do. And so when we opened Soda Bottle Opener Wala, there's this one anecdote, very funny. One lady came up to me and she told me, and you've been to the restaurant at Saiba
Yeah.
Hub. She told me behind the bakery counter that please stand here. I want to take a photo of you. My grandmother was Parsi who got married to someone else. I honestly, Kalyan, I felt like I was in a zoo. There's such few Parsis in Delhi. And she was very, very excited to meet me. She took a picture with me and everything. So even in my bio that I send out, I always write that, Anahita Dhondia, I'm a Parsi from Delhi. Otherwise, people don't get it. And growing up, it was a very big mix of cultures for us. So we used to visit our grandparents in Allahabad. We used to go to Bombay because my cousins were all in Bombay. My mama, Masi, everyone's in Bombay. All the extended family, everyone's here in Bombay. And obviously Delhi filled with Punjabis and North Indians and Sindhis and Marwaris, everyone. So, honestly, it was just being in the middle of a melting pot of different religions and cultures, which obviously made my entire journey as a chef. It kind of, brought it all together because it evolved a lot. Like my cooking evolved a lot, my taste buds evolved a lot. And I'm, if you compare a Bombay Parsi to a Delhi Parsi, a Delhi Parsi is more open-minded. A Delhi Parsi's got more flavors that the person has tried out. Bombay Parsis, I mean, I honestly love all my cousins. I love the community. But I would say in terms of exposure, it's limited. So that's one of those things.
It's a very good point because I guess it happens with every community. Like even if I take say Bengalis, I mean the natural thing is that if when you're in Calcutta or Bengal, you're so steeped in Bengali culture. But it's
Absolutely.
and I was born abroad. My dad had studied abroad, so I'd actually lived in Iran. So
Okay.
yeah, so I was
That
born
must
in
be
England.
amazing because in Iran you can enter a fire temple. I mean, anyone can enter a fire temple.
Yeah, but I was very small then. So I was born in England. Then
Oh,
78, 79, we went to Iran, and my dad was a doctor there. So at the time of the Shah, and
wow.
then a year later, the Islamic Revolution happened. So we had an Argo-like escape. And then my dad, who's now no more, said he wanted to come to India because he'd been out for 14
Yeah.
years.
I mean, you
This
get
it's
when I say that, when you're in one city and the community is huge, then you are kind of, very
yeah.
deeply rooted. You have the same kind of friends, culture, food, all of that. But with me being in Delhi, I had the exposure of eating Rajma Chawal, Dhan Saag, and, whatever there might be, Sindhi, curry or whatever it might be. So it's a big mix of flavors and cultures.
Also, like you rightly said, it sort of then tempers who we are as people. So the way you would probably approach your life as a chef might be different as someone who's grown up in a colony. But I must tell you about this incident because when you spoke about this lady in Soda Bottle Wala. So a few years back when Kainaz and we were in Kolkata and we were at Newmarket walking around. And suddenly I saw her smile because just walking beside us was an elderly Parsi lady, maybe in her 60s or 70s. And she sort of looked at Kainaz and she gave a big smile. And that's it. It's not that we broke into a
I
conversation or
know.
something, but
I know.
just to see another.
It just, I mean, it's just to see, someone from your community, and especially because the community is so small in Delhi,
Yeah.
that when I was growing up in school, I had to explain people that I'm Parsi. They never understood. I was the only Parsi in my entire school from like nursery till 12th. It was just me and my brother, and there was one teacher. She was a Parsi. That's it. And till the fifth grade, nobody understood. I was always Mother Mary in all the plays because they thought I was Christian. And only after they met me, and this is one of my best friends, she told me, she's like, when I saw you talking to your dog in Gujarati, I realized that you're Parsi. I said, yeah, maybe that's the reason that that's when you actually understood. Otherwise, the community is so small that it just isn't enough. There isn't enough representation. So I would say it's been a little bit of a struggle in terms of getting the identity right. But I think it makes you for a more complex person with a lot of information and a lot of exposure, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, I feel privileged that thanks to my parents, I've had an exposure of being in different countries, and in Calcutta also growing around different communities, and in Mumbai, which is such a
Yeah.
cosmopolitan city. We have one more connection, I just realized. So my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
after they got married, initially they were settled in Allahabad. So my granny, who's now 92, so she was born in Dhaka and she got married. And my grandfather was already working in Allahabad, so she was there for a couple of years. My mom
Wow.
was born in Dhaka just after the independence, yeah, just after. And then she first 1 or 2 years in Allahabad, and then they moved to Delhi. So my grandfather, who's now no more, he was in the railways and I think Shastri Bhavan and so on. So
Wow.
when I got married to Kainaz, it took a while for people in Calcutta, including my family, to understand who the Parsis are and things like that. But my
That's
grandfather, he was a very evolved person. So he, of course, knew
yeah.
and things. Okay, now coming to your story. So when did you get interested in food? Not like me to eat, but to actually do something with it, and to become a chef.
Well,
And
so honestly, it was very, very early on. I mean, I have vivid memories, but obviously, you know how your parents are. They kind of keep reminding you of all the idiotic things that you've done in your childhood. But my mom always told me that you were this baby, and I have pictures that you were this baby, who would sit on the kitchen floor and be licking like cake batter, and like who very interested, very good eater, honestly. And I was chubby, properly chubby. And
so
I still enjoy my food. It's just that I have to work out equally, honestly, nothing else. But it was a very, very early on love affair because my mom has been a cook for, yeah, I mean, she's been a home chef actually for
oh
the last
really?
2 years. She was going to go to Le Cordon Bleu, but she never went because we were born and then she didn't want to leave us. But she
So,
was.
so, so yeah, Anita, I just missed that bit. For how many years you said she's been a home chef, the mom?
She's been a home chef for 30 years, since the time I was born
Wow,
and before that,
wow.
actually. So she went to
Before the
Sapphires.
phrase was invented, before
Yeah.
the phrase home chef was
Yeah.
invented.
She went
So
to
tell us a bit
Sapphires
about that.
also. She was in Bombay. She took a lot of classes. She gave classes also. She took classes also. And she was one of the first people in Delhi to, supply homemade mayonnaise to Modern Bazaar. And this was like in the early 90s, I'm talking about.
And
I
and
mean,
and and homemade mayonnaise is a very Parsi family and Goan family thing. Like
yeah, and we
even
always
my
have it
mother-in-law
in
would make. Yeah,
yeah, so Russian salads and patties and dips and all these things. And you know how it is with Parsis. You can't say that Parsis have only Indian influence. They have this
no, not at
huge
all, not
British,
at all.
yeah, like British influence is very big. With our furniture, with our clothes, with the community and education and everything. The Britishers
Hmm.
have played a very important role and influence in the Parsi community. So I would say that, so we grew up with like mom making I mean, she has cuttings of all these women's weeklies, and she has all these amazing recipes, and she used to make cakes, and she used to do cakes from home. I still remember she tells that she bought this oven for some X amount of money at that time, which was very expensive. But she was always a person, when we were in school, she used to do all her orders. So she used
And
to
her
take,
name is, mom's name
her
is?
name is Nilüfer Dhondi. So she's the person who kept cooking throughout our childhood, and I was very, very influenced by it. Like, I honestly was just like bedazzled that, this is how amazingly you can make all these dishes. And very young, I started helping her out, and she kind of saw that I was very interested, so she also gave me that leeway and direction, and told me that this is how you're supposed to do things, do this, do this, do this. She's very particular, she's a perfectionist, like most Parsis are. Now I'll give them that. So she's a perfectionist. Matlab, it has to be, done a certain way.
And more than Parsis, I think women are perfectionists.
Yes, absolutely. So she
Yeah,
was
like
a
if you see the difference between my wife and me, I mean, she's Parsi as well, but I think that more the woman's side in her makes her a
and also the women part, if you're giving credit to us, then we should also give credit that we're also multitaskers, and very good multitaskers.
Yes, yes.
I agree. And that's women across, the world. So anyway, so she was the one who, introduced me to cooking, and I have been helping her out in cooking. And by the time I was 13, I remember telling her that, I'll study, and I was really good at studies. But I still want to, pursue my dream of being a chef. And I remember researching a lot and trying to get in touch with women chef in the industry, but it was very hard. I mean, other than 2-3 chefs in the industry, like Chef Manisha Bhasin, or Chef Ritu Dalmia, or Neeta Mehta, or all these people are the iconic people, and they were just literally a handful, not even more than that. Tarla Dalal.
Two of them were in Delhi, that Manisha Bhasin of ITC, and
but it was still very, so as a 14, 15-year-old, it was very unapproachable. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. So anyway, I did my research. I went to IHM Aurangabad before I enrolled. After I finished my 10th board, we all took a holiday to Aurangabad, by the way, Ajanta, Ellora caves, and we saw everything. And we did a holiday, and we went to the institute to see if I'll actually be able to study there. And I met the principal there, Professor Jairam, who's still there. And he was the one who told me that, Anayata, if you're getting into this industry, and I was 16. He was like, if you're getting into this industry, please make sure you're going to be working on all weekends, birthdays, anniversaries, all of that. When the world is partying, you are cooking. So
that the world can party. You're cooking so that we can party, yes.
That's the time that you will make money. Otherwise, you're going to be out of business. So, those words really stuck around. And honestly, they kind of set the tone of the amount of hard work that I had to put in. It was very, very clear that, I just have to get into this, and I have to give it my all, physically and mentally. It's not just physically, even though a lot of people say that just being in the kitchen is very, very physical. It is. But mentally also, it takes a toll on your...
Must be strenuous, right?
There's screaming, shouting, orders, it's hot. You have to also, imagine you're in a chaotic situation, and then you come out of the kitchen and you're in this la zone where the music is perfect, and suddenly you're like, okay, I have to meet a guest, and you have to be normal and natural and sweet and nice. So honestly, it is it's not easy, and it's something.
And kitchens are often pretty small, like in big cities like Delhi, Mumbai.
A lot of people, a lot of shouting, fights, which are very normal. We fight at service, and then after service we're like buddies, by the end of it. So
like politicians in the parliament.
Yeah, so fight, throw things, and then you are fine.
And also the other thing that there wouldn't be too many women in the kitchen, especially the hot kitchen.
So like I was saying that when I was at Le Cordon Bleu in London and IHM Aurangabad both, IHM Aurangabad, I was in a batch, there were only 5 girls and there were 50 boys. And this is the culinary arts, which is purely cooking and food. Yeah. And then at Le Cordon Bleu, London, I saw the ratio of men and women very different. So there were almost equal, if not more, women in the hot cuisine. But from India, Yeah, but from India, the representation in the kitchen, as in cuisine or hot kitchen, was much lesser. So
Hmm.
I only had one more girl, and she's also a chef, Chef Vanshika Bhatia from Together at 12th. She was in my batch at Le Cordon Bleu, and she's much younger than me. So I kind of like mentored her a little bit.
She's doing
But
pretty well as well.
she's
She's
doing
doing pretty
great.
well.
And
Yeah.
she was at Le Cordon Bleu at the same time. So it was just the two of us from India. And the pastry batch had some 15 girls and boys from India. So, there's a huge demand of pastry and studying pastry in comparison to getting into the hot kitchen and cuisine, because it is termed as tougher and more hectic and busy and, all of those things. And it can put people off. It can intimidate you. It can scare
Yes.
you.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, there are often say I remember Chef Amrinder Singh saying that Amrinder Sandhu saying that when she was working in hot kitchens in the five-star hotels and all that, the executive chefs were not too sure, or the head chefs were not sure, so one had to work doubly
I agree.
hard.
I
So
mean,
tell me a bit
200,
about it. Tell me a bit
200.
about your journey. IHM, then you worked at the Taj and then Marriott, right? First.
So
So
I was at IHM Aurangabad, which is right out of school. So school was in Delhi, Springdale School, Dholakwa. And then I went to IHM Aurangabad, which is a 3-year course with a 1-year work experience. So in those 3 years, you have internships and you have a lot of different things. So I worked at Taj, I worked at Marriott, I worked at Marriott in Delhi and Marriott in Bombay in Juhu. I honestly love that property. The
excellent.
only thing that totally killed me was the pace of Bombay in comparison to Delhi, because the Delhi pace is very, very different. It's very relaxed, it's very chill. Bombay pace is like into 200. You know it.
Can I
Um,
just interject once? You tell me about it. So when I started my career, I started in IMRB in Calcutta in market research, and it's the place for perfectionism in market research, and the main client then was ITC. So everything has to be done properly, the proper scales, proper technique, and it's like a 5-day test match. And then I came to Mumbai because my boss in Calcutta was expecting, so there was no one in my department, so they sent me to Mumbai for training. And Mumbai was like, you're thrown into the pool and start swimming. And I was like, what's happening around me? So I can and
yeah.
but I know that when I go to Delhi to work, it was again more like but Mumbai is
Delhi, when you come to work, first they will feed you. They'll be like, "Chalo,
yes,
chai,
yes, yes, yes,
ye wo." When they
yes,
once they feed you well, then they'll
yes.
make you work.
So I remember when I used to go to our field research office, our main office was at Khan Market at that time. And field research was, I don't know where it was, but the first thing they would do is they would get these jalebis. It was in some market over there and they were really good. Yes. So it's a bit difficult to a very different sort of
I
pace
mean, honestly, I was staying with my Masi. I was staying very,
in
very
Mumbai.
close. Yeah, in
In
Bombay. There's this place called Adarbat, Karighat Colony, very close to
Karigat.
Beach Candy.
A lot of films and ads are shot there. Karigat. It's near
Yeah,
Som and
very
South
cute.
Bombay.
The colony is very cute. So I used to go from there. I used to take the train, and I used to go to Ville Parle and then take an auto or go to Andheri, and there used to be a bus for Juhu, for JW Marriott to pick us up. And this was at
Right.
like 6 a.m. And then I would come back home at 9 a.m. So I had no life in Bombay. I never
Yes.
really went out and explored, because on that one day off for a chef, all you want to do is sleep. There's nothing else you want to do.
Sleep
Uh,
and laundry and this, that, whatever you do
Sleep,
by
I mean,
yourself.
laundry actually gets taken care of at the
Okay.
hotel, because I mean, but yeah, up and down in terms of
Yeah.
that, yes. But in terms of just rejuvenation, you just want to sleep.
Yes.
For a chef. So Bombay was very different. And then I came to Delhi and I worked at the Taj Mansingh, which is in Khan Market, close to Khan Market.
Yes.
And I honestly loved working there. I mean, the kind of experience, the chefs, the work, I got to, do these wine dinners. And I mean, the experience was amazing. And I was just like this 21-year-old. And what I learned from there, and what I usually tell a lot of young chefs, is that when you're put into a situation in a kitchen, when you do your best and people see that you're actually putting in the right kind of effort and dedication, you will get more work. But if you come into the kitchen, you're on your phone, you walk out, you go for a smoke break, you go to the loo, you do this, you do that. I see a lot of kids doing that as well. I've seen a lot of kids in my career who worked under me, internships. I see that focus not being there. And I mean, I give myself credit there because there were some chefs who saw that focus and only then they gave me the work. If they wouldn't see that focus, I wouldn't get the kind of experience that I got.
And this is true for any career. I'm pretty sure that these are pretty wise words. And I must say that while Anahita is referring to kids and young chefs and all of that, she's quite a young chef herself, but she's accomplished a lot in that. And I think that this holds true for any profession.
Now I can call them kids. No, I'm 30 now. Now I can say kids.
But still 30 under 30 or whatever. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So now, Anahita, you were IHM Aurangabad, so with one of the top schools, and you worked with Taj Mansingh, JW Marriott, again, top hotel chains. So what made you go back to culinary school? Yeah.
I got an offer from Taj, and you know how it is with Parsis and Taj, and I honestly
Yes, Tata Company.
would have taken it up because I understand the philosophy of the company. I know I would have grown a lot in the company, but I didn't take it up because I wanted to perfect my skills. And I said that if I don't do it now, then once you get into the rut of a job, you can never leave it. It becomes very difficult when you're kind of committed and you're used to a certain routine. So after my 1 year got over, I decided that I wanted to go to Le Cordon Bleu, and it's been a dream for me right since I was, a child. But then I decided that I want to do a proper graduation and then go to, to Le Cordon Bleu. Even though you can go there, you can go to LCB directly from school also. Like you can be an 18-year-old also, which is what Vanshika did. So I went there and. LCB London, or I mean, it was just a place where they would test your skills 3 times a day. And someone asked me, one of the students asked me that, how is it, studying at Le Cordon Bleu London? So I said, imagine yourself to be a MasterChef contestant 3 times a day. Because you get marked on each dish that you make, you get marked on it, which goes into your final assessment. So every day you make 3 new dishes. So the chef comes, he demonstrates a dish. You've never seen it in your life. It's complicated, it's got technique, it's got flavor. It's all the things that will make you a chef, right? So we have a list of ingredients with the quantity. And after that, there's a blank page. It depends on you. How focused are you? How much are you listening? How much are you, kind of talking and understanding what's happening? And I would draw and scribble and do all these things and share obviously my notes with other students also. But anyway, that was a different point. But I mean, what I loved about it is that it really made me focus, and it really made me work on my skill in terms of my technique, in terms of my presentation, in terms of understanding ingredients and flavors. So it was very important for me. So I did that, I finished it, and then I came back to India. I was going to get a job in Dubai. I'd applied in Dubai. I'd applied to a couple of places abroad as well. And when I came back, I decided a couple of months, I was like, why don't I just do a small internship before I leave? So I went to Olive then and Olive Delhi, and I met Chef Sabi and I met Mr. A.D. Singh. And that's when they had already thought of the Irani Cafe. They were conceptualizing the Irani Cafe and they spoke to me. And me as a person that I am, I was like, do this, do this, do this. This is Parsi. So they were like, do you want to join us? You can just join us. And in 4 days, I was on board with the soda team.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can quite visualize you being in that meeting and sort of brainstorming with them, like without even like thinking of, okay, these are. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because sometimes people wonder that, these are my ideas. Should I even talk about it? Should I share it? Should it go out? And yes, I mean, there can be people who can take your ideas and this thing, but I think that in the longer run, and you've shared so many things, I think it makes a big difference, right?
I agree with you 100%. And I know a lot of chefs. I'm part of a lot of chef WhatsApp groups also. And, on Instagram also, I have a lot of people coming up and telling me, why are you sharing this recipe? And why are you, doing this? And why are you doing that? And I'm like, listen, I will make the same recipe and you will make the same recipe. It'll never be the same.
Absolutely.
And sharing your knowledge is not bad. And honestly, that has been a problem with the older generation. They've
Yeah.
been very possessive. Masala ka potli chupaya, the kid goes there, comes back, and then that's already put into the recipe. All that it's not worth it, because honestly, you're not going to live forever. You have to pass down those recipes, you have to enjoy those dishes, you want to share the knowledge and the food, right? So I've been a person who has no filter in terms of conversations about
True.
food. And I will, whatever's on my mind or whatever knowledge I have, or if I've read something or researched or watched, I will be happy to share it. And I've always done that, in all my workshops, classes,
Yes.
and
Yes.
obviously seen it on Instagram. I mean, I will share whatever I know. I'll share it with you. A lot of people have been asking me for my dhansak recipe. That's the only thing I haven't shared, because it's going to be in my book. And I'm like, you
Fair.
want to buy my book, then you buy my book and you get the recipe there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, 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 that's fair enough, because even when you're putting it in the book, like the cost of the books will be like a few hundred rupees, or whatever.
Agree.
But you can't put a cost to knowledge.
I
You can buy the book for X number of rupees,
hmm.
and you get the dhansak recipe. But then you make it either for yourself and your family or your friends, or potlucks,
I
become a home chef or whatever. But that joy can't be calculated. But I think that's really wonderful, and I've seen you share that consistently on Instagram. Different sorts of recipes from your home, easy to do, Parsi things which you can do during the lockdown. When we did the Times Kitchen Tales meet in
Yes.
Delhi, you took your workshop on millets. You're writing the book, which I know. And this very point of this holding things back. So Madhur Jaffrey, I met her at the Tasting India Summit a couple of years back, and she was talking about it. And she said her biggest frustration is that when she would travel across the country trying to get recipes to sort of share, people would always hold back that one element. So I think this new generation, uh, and you would, Ananta, this would, I think, apply to a lot of people in the new generation, right? I mean, the people like you, Pooja, Sanjana. I'm just thinking right now,
So I mean, yeah,
who are out
honestly,
there, Ranveer, this, that, who are sharing recipes,
I
right?
agree. I agree. So the only thing that I have, which I've seen, and this is what I've also told a lot of people online, that not every recipe online is perfect.
Yes.
But I know for a fact I have tried and tested recipes. If my recipe is not right, I will not share that recipe, because I know a certain amount of people follow me, and they follow me because they trust me that, listen, if we open up one
True.
of her recipes and we make it, it's not going to be a fail. It's going to be good. And that, Kalyan, honestly, during the lockdown, because I mean, for chefs, food is, what we think, eat, breathe all the time. And every meal that I was cooking at home, because obviously we were all in lockdown, I
Yeah.
was just sharing that. I had no
I know.
agenda that, I
I
have to
know.
get so many followers, I have to get this, I have to. The kind of response that I got was phenomenal. I started my Instagram account when I was in London, same time when I was at LCB, because there was so many beautiful dishes that we were plating. So I was taking pictures of
Yeah.
it. And that's when Instagram had just started. People in India were not even on Instagram except Pooja, I think, because I
Yeah.
remember connecting with her then. Um, and I started sharing, pictures, recipes, whatever I had information. And over the last, what has it been? Almost 10 years now. My Instagram has gone from 0 to 100K. It's taken me
Wow.
10 years organically to get it here. And the last maybe like 6 months during the lockdown, I was at about 70, 75K. In 3, 4 months, it was 30,000 more, which has taken me so many years. And that's when I realized that the kind of audience is excited to try recipes. They were making them, they were sharing them, they were tagging me, that we have made this, we've tried this, it came out so well. This is our family staple at home now. All those messages actually really encouraged me. And even after the lockdown, when things have kind of opened up, I still, whatever I'm making at home, I kind of share that.
And how fulfilling is that for a creator, in your
Yeah.
case, that when you see people tagging you and saying that, I've made this and things like that. And I think that this is very wise words which you said there, which is encouraging for so many people out there, because, it can sometimes get very overwhelming when you see social media accounts and of well-known name, and you see people talking in terms of millions and lakhs and this that, and then you wonder that what am poor little me doing. But the thing is, like you said, I mean, you've taken 10 years to build this, and
Yeah.
within that also you went from 70K to 100K in about 6 months
Yeah.
in the lockdown, and that you did by every day sharing. So sharing recipes which are Anahita's, like even if you read it in a recipe book or your mom's taught it to you, but what you've put out is your recipe.
I
And
agree.
when
And
when
that's also
I
one
make
thing.
it from you, it'll be
Yeah,
my recipe based
I
on
agree.
your,
I agree. So
it's
that's also something that I think, I've pointed out that, see, recipes are always going to be inspired from somewhere.
yeah. I mean,
Very
there's
true.
been
You
a
are not,
million dhansaks made so far. Okay, maybe not a million because there aren't so many Parsis. It won't fill up Eden Garden, like I say.
yeah, that's not the right.
But yeah, but
I
many,
agree.
many, many rajmas have been made.
Absolutely. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that recipes are going to be inspired from somewhere. You've learned it from somewhere. Like, for example, I really took on a lot of Asian, Korean cooking
Yeah.
because that was something that was on my to do list for a long time.
Yes.
And that was a time when I said that, I want to, and as chefs, we have that knowledge of technique. We have
Yes.
that knowledge that we're not scared to try something new. It might fail, it's okay, but, you
Correct.
will figure it out. Like, for example, if my cake doesn't rise, I know I've messed up somewhere. Or if my cake is hard as a rock, I know the science behind it because I've studied it. You
And
know,
husband will still eat it, right?
husband is very husband is very particular now because he's grown up with all this food. So he'll just be like, no, this is not good. I'll be
Okay,
like,
in the
okay.
early days of our marriage, offline, I'll tell you what some of the desserts I've had.
Sure. So anyway,
Yes.
what I'm trying to say is that I have also, bought cookbooks during the lockdown. I have also invested time in researching. And if I have been inspired from somewhere or I've got an idea from somewhere, I always tag them saying that, what,
That's
this is
lovely.
the book that I got it from, like Panghat. I've picked up so many things from Sai's
Right.
book and I've always tagged her.
I've
I've
seen that. Yes.
bought her books and I've sent it to my friends to cook from it. So I feel that our community, we need to be more compassionate. We need to push people. We need to, enjoy social media and not run in this number game. It's not about that.
Yes. Yes. That's so true. And also the fact is that you've also made it very accessible to people. So when you've put out dishes, you've not put it out from a chef's point of view, but you put it out from the point of view of Anahita, who's like,
And
who
nor are
lives in
they
a home and
styled.
who's cooking at home.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how your recipes, like how your breakfast dishes are, and finely chopped breakfast or whatever, it's become synonymous with you. I mean, people look
And
forward
I'm
to
not a
you.
chef. I'm just like someone who loves to
And
cook and eat.
and you didn't start it with an agenda. I want to reach
No,
X number of
no.
people. You just started sharing, and that's the beauty of social media. You just start sharing,
Yeah.
and then people respond, and that
Mm.
response is so warming and overwhelming that you're like, okay, you know what? There are people out there who are enjoying the content or who are seeing that you're putting in that much effort. And I will never, like, I'm not shooting these in like proper studio lights and styling them and all. Now it's there, it's hot. I quickly take a picture and I want to eat
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We
That's it.
can't risk it going cold. We can't risk it going
That's
cold.
it. So, I mean,
Yes.
honestly, this is what it's been. And I mean, I am very grateful for the platform that I have. And I love using it every day.
Yes. Now, going a bit to your the professional side, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
till very recently you were with the soda bottle opener. In fact, as a partner chef and also looking after the Gurgaon. Gurgaon was also where I had my Delhi launch of the Traveling Delhi, and Anahita had cooked up this lovely
Absolutely.
meal for all the guests, and also she'd done a live in the beginning, sort of introducing the
Yes.
book. Now, see,
Yes.
you worked at IHM, where my understanding is studied that most of the Indian colleges, most of the teaching is European based. It's not really Indian. So you have to go to the hotels
Correct.
to learn.
Correct.
Then you went to Cordon Bleu, which is again international. And
Absolutely.
then you came to Soda Bottle, which is not only Indian, but it was a lot of Parsi and Bombay. And of course, reimagined and contemporarized for today's day
Today.
and age, but in a real way, not
Absolutely.
hidden in smoke. So how was that experience of being trained all the time in Western metric? It's almost like you've done all your education in English medium schools, and
And
suddenly you
then,
have to do a Hindi show. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So how
So,
was that experience?
I mean, Kalyan, honestly, it was very challenging I'm going to use the word challenging because when I even had the conversation with Chef Sabi and Mr. A.D. Singh, I remember coming back home and talking to my parents that this is what they're doing, and this is a, an Irani cafe which is going to be called Soda Bottle Opne Wala. There's going to be Parsi food and Bombay street food. Obviously, the menu was not decided, but that's why I was kind of coming in. You're absolutely right. My training was all in European food. My passion is, French, Mediterranean, global cuisine. We can call it global
Yes.
cuisine or world cuisine.
You did a moussaka this weekend, right?
I did a moussaka, but it was a Parsi keema moussaka because my
Oh,
mom always made the keemo, which was not Italian or Greek style. It was always with the Parsi masalas and a little bit of cola vinegar and jaggery.
I hope you guys heard that, huh? Chemo. So chemo is how the Parsis call keema.
Yeah,
So
so
even
it
I
was
spell
on
it
the
as
menu.
chemo now.
It was on the menu last weekend. Anyway, so
Yeah,
coming back
yeah.
to the restaurant, uh, studying European food and obviously cooking European food. And sadly, in IHMs, even till today, the representation of Indian food is not as strong as studying France and Spain and all the other countries in the world. I would say Asian food is limited and Indian food is limited. Now I think curriculums are being changed and regional Indian food is being taught to the students because it's very important to be able to represent your culture, especially in India and abroad, both the
And I think
places.
students also must be seeing role models like you and so many other people like Chef Thomas, Ranveer, everyone
So,
who's focusing on Indian food and many others. And I think they
absolutely.
want to be like you.
My fascination with, and I wouldn't say fascination, I'd actually use the word that I started craving Indian food when I was in London. And that happens to most Indians. I mean, you're there, and how much bread and how much sandwich and how much all this can you have? You want your masala, you crave your masala, you want your, all the spices and dals, and like a hot bowl of
E-
dal is like gold, you
Even
know?
if you're Parsi, even if you're Parsi, who's some say more
Even
British than the British.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I actually started, experimenting in London and in my kitchen at the apartment that I was staying, and I started cooking a lot of Indian food, way more than I would ever cook at home. And now the thing also with homes is, and especially Indian homes, is you have help, you have your mother, you have your grandmother, you have people who are constantly involved in the everyday process of cooking Indian food. So you never get involved, even if you are a chef who's a young chef and who's in culinary school and all, max to max you'll be told you are studying culinary, so why don't you make us a special meal, or why don't you do something nice for us. So
I
that is
see.
the kind of cooking that I used to do at home. But when I was in London, I realized that Parsi food and obviously my home cooked food, Indian khana, normal ghar ka khana, dal sabzi roti,
Yeah.
is what I missed. um, and even at Le Cordon Bleu, there's this final assessment that we have in which you are supposed to cook something in your own, in the flavors of your country. So, like, Indian cuisine. So I had lamb and I had some pumpkin. So everyone's given the ingredients, same ingredients. So I had lamb and I had pumpkin and I had some other vegetables and something else and some ingredients for a bread. So I remember I made this lamb, which was with spices and whatever, like a khade masale ka meat,
Yeah.
but like little different. And then I made a kaddu ki sabzi, which is khatta meetha kaddu, which is the UP style because my mom makes it on all these on festivals and all, Diwali and Holi and all. We have that UP influence in our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I made that. I made rassedar aloo and I made puri. I made mutton. So it was very like
Wow.
UP style. And it was all plated, proper French plating and everything. And this chef went in, like, he went mad. He was like, what are these flavors? I've never eaten
Yeah.
something like this. And this puri, he was like, this is molecular gastronomy. And I looked at him and I said, listen, this is what we eat on Sunday. And then, it's
It
just,
is puffing up like this, the puri. Yeah.
I mean, that's when I realized that honestly, this is what I need to do because when I did that and I ate it and he ate it and the kind of response I got, I loved it. So I was not scared of getting into the soda bottle kitchen and doing Parsi food and Indian cuisine because I knew I had some basic knowledge, technique, etc., etc. But I had to research a lot. I obviously spoke to my entire family, aunts, this one, that one, got recipes, tried recipes. My mom was on board for almost 5 years as a consultant, and she taught a
She was doing
lot
the
of.
masalas also, right? She was
She
your
makes
mom
the
was doing
sambar
the
masala and the Dhana Jeeru masala. So she came and actually trained a lot of my chefs and trained me also, obviously. So all the credit for all the Parsi bonu goes to her.
Yeah, in
But
fact,
then,
Mohit Balachandran would often say that
yeah.
your mom's
Yeah.
thing.
So we in at the restaurant in Gurgaon, we work with the community, the ladies. There are lots of ladies in the community. Some makes achar, someone makes something else. So we always worked with them, and we always wanted to kind of support the community and also be part of the community. So that is what Soda Bottle started with, and that's what we did, and that's what we created. And then once I had the hang of the recipes and I understood the flavors, because it was a learning experience for me as well. And that's when 2 years 3 years into doing it day in and day out, I realized that I really want to talk about Parsi food, Indian food, popularization of regional Indian food. And it was, again, like I told you about social media, it was a response that we got such an overwhelming response that we realized that what, this was missing in the market.
Yes.
And
And you
we
also
just
made it
did that.
relatable. You made it approachable. Like
And it
in
was
Soda
all
Bottle,
comfort.
it was very friend speak. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a casual place. It was comfort food. It was just like the Irani cafes where you have
Yeah.
anyone walking in and sitting together and having a great meal.
Yeah. And if you
Uh,
see the pricing and everything also was quite cafe-like, not so. Yeah, and you're talking to the community. I remember at Soda Bottle, especially in Gurgaon, and probably even Delhi, you would have these meets where the local Parsi women would showcase their, I don't
so
know, their
yeah,
garas and
yeah.
embroideries and
We did a lot of Parsi bazaars. We've done a lot of
yeah.
things with the community where we've done books with Parzor. We've done saris and all this, and we've got Ashteen and all these people. We've tried to add as much as we can to the restaurant with the support and the help of the community. Because I mean, their support is very important, and we even got them for a tasting. I remember before Soda opened, I was connecting, like I was calling people, and I was like, "Come, taste," because we wanted feedback,
Yes.
and that was important. So that was great.
I want to pick on one word, a couple of questions before we end. Now, you were asking about you spoke just about right now about making it sustainable. So you've also worked with the SDG of the UN and the Young Chefs Manifesto. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, so this is in 2013 we opened Soda Bottle Opnawala. Obviously, the first 2 years were just mad busy creating, getting everything kind of stabilized and getting everything going. And then we also expanded very quickly. So 1 year into Cyber Hub opening, there was Khan Market, and then there was Bangalore, BKC, and Hyderabad, and obviously 9 outlets. So how you are as a chef, you're stretched because you're doing
Yes.
so many things. But I remember in the third year of Soda Bottle Opnawala, I realized that as a chef, just putting out food and customer service, ingredients, food, that was not the only thing. As a chef, I also wanted to introduce new ingredients, and B, I wanted to cut down on the food waste, and which was something that I was just casually reading upon, and I wanted to implement it. Now, no restaurant, no home, nobody is going to be a zero food waste. But we are
Yes.
going to try and achieve zero food waste. Obviously, there will be an X amount that
Yeah.
there will be wasted. But at least we are, thinking about that. At least we are
Hmm.
trying to curb down the waste. And the second thing that I wanted to, study, read, research, and learn was about millets. And
Yes.
millets was something, and it was very weird because I actually called my grandmother, called my mom, called people, and I said that, why do we not in our everyday cooking use millets anymore? And they were like, you know what, we stopped and it was too long a process and then it was not available and whatever else. So
Hmm.
I said that I need to, connect with people who are working with millets. So I met this lady called Meenu Nageshwaran, who's,
Yeah.
running this place called the Earth Collective. And she told me about a person called Pallavi who runs this thing called Millets for Health and in Noida.
Yes. Yes.
So I met her and we did a class for the audiences at Cyber Hub. And then I took her into my kitchen and I said, listen, I just want you to teach me the basics of how do you cook this. And then as a chef, I am going to use it and freak out.
Hmm.
So she said, okay. So she taught me, and obviously I give her credit every time I learn or I teach
Yes.
that, this is how you cook millets, clean it, use it, whatever. And that's when I was just like, what, this is such such an amazing grain. It's grown in India. It uses less water. It's been stopped commercial. I mean, it was not popular anymore. This was in 2015, and I said,
before it
let's put it on the
became
menu.
sexy. Before millets became trendy. Again.
Exactly. So I was like, let's put it on the menu. Let's try new things. And honestly, Kalyan, it's been such an effort to get people to eat it. It's very hard for getting people to kind of change what they eat. Like rice and roti is what they eat. Now getting a bajra roti or getting something else or using kuttu ka atta, which is buckwheat, it's very difficult to get people to change. It's taken us years to get
It's also
and say millets, and then people have started doing it.
It's also a very challenging thing to work with because, like, for example, the bajra jawar roti, which is, in Maharashtra fairly had. So when I'm at Nashik and places like that, or even Mumbai when I have it, or a cook Banu makes it, it has to be hot because you can't have a cold bajra jawar roti.
Absolutely. See, I would say roti and all is something which is a little difficult to work with, and
I think you guys did halim and all that also with.
Yeah, you can use it in curries. You can use it as just as a quinoa, just substitute quinoa with millets, and it's the same thing. Like in terms of texture, it's just that quinoa is so popular and used all over the world. So you want to eat the same thing. It's just like avocados are popular.
Yes.
The media makes it popular, nothing else makes it popular.
But
So just getting back to the Chef's Manifesto part.
Yeah, I was going to come.
I started, talking about millets and everything, and I was putting it on social media, and I started talking about food waste and biodiversity and all that. And I got connected through Tasting India. Obviously, you know about Tasting India,
yes.
Sanju and Soresh. I got connected with the team in London, and they were getting the Chef's Manifesto ready, which is basically a group of chefs from all over the world. We were 13 chefs when we started, and it is something that is like a guideline for chefs, made by chefs. It's not being imposed by any UN head or community or people. It's actually made by chefs for chefs because it's achievable. And it basically tells you what are the things that you can work on to achieve zero hunger. So you can work with your small stakeholder farmers. You can work with ingredients that are sourced in a good way, ethically sourced ingredients. Or it's not achievable in a day, Kalyan. It takes years.
Of course.
And talk about biodiversity, because we've got 30,000 species of different ingredients, but because we eat the same thing, we are stopping the production, we are stopping the growth of those ingredients. So it's important to talk about new ingredients. So I was very happy to be part of the Chef's Manifesto community, and over the last 3 years we've grown from like 13 chefs to like 900 chefs from all over the world.
Wow.
And all the chefs have so much to learn. So I learned from a chef from Ireland. He learned something from me. I learned from a person in Russia, and all the chefs are doing something interesting. So it's like a platform where, as a chef or as a person in the food industry or a farmer, anyone, if you're interested in it, you can join it. There are webinars, there are chats, there are obviously on-ground events, but now not happening because of COVID. So we launched this in 2018 in Stockholm. And I have been very actively trying to get more and more chefs from India and, talking about it and growing the community. Because honestly, Kalyan, this is the only way possible, forward. I'm not saying you have to be fully sustainable in everything, but we have to start taking steps towards sustainability. And the pandemic really, really showed us this.
Yes.
That, we have to slow down with our consumption, fashion, food, whatever it might be. We have to be more conscious. And it's not only the government and the people involved in the government, but it's private sector and us as consumers. We also have to take that stand. So as a chef, this is what I do, and I've been promoting it, and I'm really happy to be, part of the community, sharing my knowledge and obviously learning.
That's a wonderful, wonderful example, because like you said, it has to be self-driven. It can't come from other people. But what happens is sometimes you need examples. So when people see what you've been doing, when they listen to you now about what you said, I'm sure like there are many people who right now will want to be part of the Chef Manifesto. And you're very right about the pandemic. Like when we first started ordering in, and Khane Khas opened here, the Punjabi restaurant we were very fond of, we called for a dish called Jeera chicken, or some, or no, in the beginning we called for some paneer labradar or something, because we were avoiding even non-veg outside. Then we said the curry would be maybe a bit too much for the two of us. So instead of trying to overeat and finish that, we keep the curry aside, and the next day put two boiled idus in it and make a egg labradar. Okay, so what next, Anahita? You're now setting up something new with your mom, and so tell us a bit
Yes.
about that.
So, I mean, so the lockdown, honestly, Kalyan, made me think of the business a little differently. A lot of people I know, and I found out that a lot of people were not comfortable ordering from restaurants. And this is when lockdown had happened and just kind of
Yeah.
eased. So I said that, why not start something from home with mom, which I have been, thinking about for a very long time. And I thought that was a perfect opportunity. So we started doing these weekend kitchen menus, and every weekend we do a different menu, and those menus can be Parsi or they can be from all over the world with the food that mom's been cooking and we've grown up eating. So very nostalgic, very old school, very wholesome, delicious, all of that. And so we started doing that, and we got a huge response, very overwhelming,
Yeah,
very
I remember sitting in Mumbai. I'd ordered the chicken. Was it the sali chicken or
Jardalu Sali chicken, yeah,
Jardalu sali chicken with, and you guys have made the bread also.
fresh
So my
pav, yeah.
brother stays in Gurgaon, and I remember placing an order. And at that time, it was in the height of the lockdown and pandemics. I think your husband was doing the deliveries and the managing of the accounts and all that. So it's like going back to the good old days of a mom and pop and son-in-law sort
Absolutely.
of establishment.
Absolutely. And honestly, it just keeps you so grounded because you're just connected to food right from, your hands are in that food. Like, just to make you understand what I mean is that as you keep going up the ladder in the culinary industry, also, you have more juniors cooking, you have more managerial stuff happening, and you're not actually cooking like bulk quantities.
Yes,
Your
yes.
mom and me were literally chopping, peeling, cutting, going back to the basics. And Kalyan, for me, it was I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I was like, this is what we're going to keep doing. So we do 4 weeks and then we take a weekend off because, I mean, there's no point burning out. So it's
Yeah,
important to, keep that going as well because weekends are when the whole family is off. And that's the
yes,
time that people want to order food.
yes.
So that did really well. And I also managed to finish my book in this 1 year, which has been
Wow.
how it is. It always gets delayed because you're busy with other things. So
Can't
now
wait for
it's
that.
yeah, it's in the
I say
final
can't wait for
edit.
that. Yeah.
Yes. So it's going to be coming out very soon. And it was supposed to come out in 2020, but then everything got delayed and whatever else. But I'm
Which
glad we
has
got
its
this.
own reason. Probably the book which will
Yeah,
come
yeah,
out will be even richer. Like a dhansag
absolutely.
which gets an extra hour to cook will be even
Or
nicer, right?
Bhansak that is left over from
Over an
one night.
extra day. Extra day. Yes. Yes.
It's like kali dal, right? So like
Yes.
dal makhni one night before, the next day tastes amazing because everything comes
Vindaloo.
together, right?
Yes,
So
Vindaloo
anyway,
or
that is
whatever.
happening. So the book is happening, and the weekend kitchen is continuing. And we plan to do, hopefully, if we can travel, we want to do some pop-ups in different cities. So maybe one in Bombay, we might do one in Cal, we might do one in Bangalore, and let's see where this takes us. In the future. But as of now, just these two things.
And how do people place an order? Do they like go to the Instagram page, your
So
Instagram
yes.
page?
So we don't have an Instagram page. It's just my page. So me and my dad, we post this every day. Every day, I'm saying on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock. We
And
post
in the
it
story, no, not on the main post.
because we do such limited portions that we sell
Wait,
out.
I had to really go and find it. And then I find a
And
message you saying, Anaita, I know you're cooking, but where is the menu? How do I place an
yeah,
order?
so and also one more thing is that we sell out on Wednesday, so then we
Hmm.
plan prep Thursday, then we do everything leading up. Because we're doing everything ourselves. But now we have a whole database of all the people who've ordered. So I just send it to them on WhatsApp. Like every Wednesday, they get the menu on
So
WhatsApp.
preferential treatment, preferential
Yes.
or loyalty program. Yes.
Loyalty program, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I think it's going to take you to great places. So folks, if you are in Delhi, Gurgaon, NCR, Noida, everywhere, I'm guessing, or if you're watching this from anywhere in the world and you want to order for people like I do often for my brother and sister-in-law and
Yeah.
Delhi. Also from Vikramjit,
A
I
lot of
sometimes
people,
order.
a lot of people from
Yeah.
America, Canada, a lot of people actually order for their family here, and then I write a small note, and
Yes, you
it's
did
so
for my brother
nice.
also. You wrote a
Yeah,
note there also. Yes.
yeah, it's just so
They're
nice to
most
get home cooked good food, and I mean, it's a really nice gift.
and what sort of dishes? Just give us an example, three, four sort of like you said
So
about the moussaka with a Parsi
yes, so we
art
do that.
which you did.
So we've done a lot of different dishes depending on the kind of months and the monsoons that that are there. So like we did a Parsi tiffin, which was in August when we did the Parsi New Year, and we have another menu coming up for this weekend, which is the
For
Parsi New Year
Navroz. Yes,
for
yes.
Navroz. So last time we did it in a tiffin carrier, and we had mora dal chawal, which is basically your yellow
Good,
dal with
good.
rice, and with kid ghost for the non-vegetarians, and nariyal doodhma papeta for the vegetarians.
Ooh.
And we had patra, and we had prawn patio for the non-vegetarians, and we had the vengnanu patio for the vegetarians. And with
Better.
that, we do rabo and achar and saria, and all the whole thing went with it. And but this year we plan to do patrani machi. So this weekend we're going to be having patrani machi.
Whoopee. So if like me you're not in Delhi, then let's just hope things get better so that
I'm sure you're going to have Parsi feast this weekend.
yeah,
I know
no,
it.
no, we will. In fact, last night I was planning that, but I want to eat your and your mom's cooking.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, when the time is right, no need to hurry. But when the time is right, your pop-ups in Mumbai, Calcutta, everything will also
Definitely.
happen. And also, please allow me to also wish you and your family, mom, dad, husband, Mr.
Thank
Bhandari,
you.
everyone a very, very happy Navroz. And like they
Thank
say, winter turns to spring. And I
Absolutely.
think that, and you really are an inspiration. You've walked the talk, and wish you all the
Thank
best, Anahita. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you, and this was amazing. Thank you. And I hope that, people watch this and get loads of ideas and do lots of amazing things.
Yes, and please, folks, share this because Anahita does everything organic in the kitchen and social media as well. So am I. So it'll really help if you share this because then people will get to hear her story because it needs to be heard. So thank you so much.